He got us.
He got us.
He got. That's ridiculous.
Daniel Mullins.
Fucking Daniel Mullins.
You got us. Mullins? Daniel Mullins.
Mullins.
Oh, Daniel Mullins. You got us.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous.
But you know what he didn't get?
What didn't he get, Kevin?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to PixelLit. My name is Kevin. Alongside with me, as always, is Phil.
Hello.
And today we're talking about more Bioshock Rapture.
Bioshock Rapture.
Specifically part 2.
Still so very good.
Still very good, yeah.
So very good.
And
now part 2 is easily the meatiest part of this book.
It is the meaty part of the book where you're really figuring out, like, oh yeah, this is where a lot of these the audio journals that you find in Bioshock, a lot of them are recorded in this era. Because
they even hint at the
they even reference the
devices.
audio journal recording devices.
Yeah. They make a point of it, which I got a real kick out of, because at this point, because it wasn't long after this was, I can't speak to whether or not Bioshock was the first game that used the audio journals for like flavor and everything like that, but they were, I have to feel like they were definitely the people who really popularized the whole thing, and it wouldn't take long after this first game for that to just be parodized so quickly. Right. And so the fact that they address it, I got a real kick out of that. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, and they because they do that. It's in Bioshock. You'll see it in Dishonored as well. They use audio logs, and it kind of became a thing. And yeah, like you said, I don't know if Bioshock is the first thing that used it, but
we definitely ran into it a lot in Dead Space.
Dead Space
which
is
was
big
around the same
on
era of video games.
Dead Space was big on the audio journal.
Absolutely. They kept popping up because and audio journals were fantastic because unless for whatever reason the game designer, I recall this being a huge issue with a lot of people where there were some, not a lot, but there were games out there that you had to sit and listen to the audio files if you wanted to listen to them. You couldn't just have them playing while you were running around or shooting and shit, which is just wasted.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Because that was the best part about the audio recordings. You could listen to them and keep the game going. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and because so in Bioshock, you can definitely, you pick them up, and it's you press, what is it, L on the keyboard to play them or something like that.
Yeah, they were, and you'd get a ton of them. You got a ton of
so many. They really flesh out the story.
Yeah.
Now
sure.
I probably could have looked this up before we started, but I've been playing Bioshock 2, and I've been noticing the only one I had played previously was Bioshock.
Okay.
I had played a bit of Infinite, and I hadn't played 2 at all. So I'm playing 2 now, and I've noticed in part 2 of the book, there are characters that only popped up in Bioshock 2 appearing now in part 2 of the book as a means of, I guess, tying both 1 and 2 together.
Well, I gotta say, even with the fact that Bioshock Infinite deals with a very different world, they name drop one particular character in the book who is in Bioshock Infinite, so it really crosses the entire trilogy.
Yeah, it's like a linchpin trying to tie the 3 together, even though Infinite is like 50 years prior or something like that. It's
something like that.
It takes place like nearly 50 years in the past or something like that. And I can't remember.
I haven't played in years. I need to. Every time I play Bioshock, something in my computer shuts it down, and so I'm trying to get through it, and mostly trying to get through it because I've never played Bioshock 2 like you. And I'm just desperate to have an excuse to play Bioshock Infinite again. So.
Yeah. Bioshock 2 is pretty good. I've been playing it so far. I remember it was I'm not sure. I think it was a letdown after one, from critical consensus or whatever. Who cares though?
Mm-hmm.
It was. I think it was considered a letdown after one, but it's fun. It's a fun game, and I have not much bad to say about it so far. You play as a big daddy. In
that
Bioshock
much I knew.
2.
Yeah. I thought that was such a fun idea.
It's a fun twist. It's a little weird because you don't think of big daddies as having the agency that you would need for a player character to have, but it is what it is.
That's very interesting.
So part 2 starts with Andrew Ryan giving there's another little quote here talking about the chain that pulls the society in the right direction. And that's going to be something that he references so much.
It's a core tenet of his beliefs.
It's a core tenet, the great chain. Yeah. In free market like economics, some people might call it like the invisible hand of the but because I think it's a nice distinction by the lore makers of Bioshock to call it the great chain, because Ryan often uses that hand imagery as a negative.
Yes, exactly. It's smart. It's and we're going to see that.
We're going to see that coming
in this part 2. And I totally agree. I think the most interesting thing about the speech, because the speech is him basically saying farewell to the rest of the world, saying, here's the plan. Rapture's built. We are not going to sit around in your evil society, and we're heading off and doing our own thing. How many pages was that speech, Kevin? Do you happen to recall?
I'm looking at it right now, and
how many pages are we talking?
He's going on for a while.
It goes on for a little while,
It's about 2 3/4 of pages before you get it transitions over to Sander Cohen singing a little ditty.
Pretty long, yeah. And who could forget Sander Cohen? Pretty long speech, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I count your blessings instead of sheep, my dear friend, because this same speech is also given by John Galt in Atlas Shrugged, and it lasts nearly 100 pages.
Oh my God.
100 pages. 100 pages.
How has anybody ever read that book?
I have. I have. That's the thing. It is just, and even in that moment when I was in my 20s, and very sure, because the whole thing about objectivism is if you're an objectivist, you probably think you believe that you're a genius, because objectivism is all about the great geniuses. We've discussed this.
The great men. We talked about that.
And I just like many white men in his mid to late 20s assumed that I was a great man, and with a capital G and a capital M, and even in the throes of that level of delusional confidence, I still, halfway through that speech, was like, Rand, you have got to edit, baby. Like, it's the same thing over and over. She cannot stop drilling the same points home. And it's like, this is and if I had.
So John Shirley wrote the John Galt speech abridged.
Pretty much. I mean, it's just, yeah, this is, and this would have done it. 2.5 pages of like, blah, blah, blah. We're leaving. Goodbye. And as you pointed out, still kind of a long speech.
Yeah.
Still could have used some editing.
A little bit.
It could have been a lot worse, is what I guess I'm trying to say. And John Shirley, our author, seems to know that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So we after we get through the speeches, we get into because this chapter is from Bill McDonough's point of view, and he's not a fan of Sander Cohen, so he's like, yeah, the music was boring, and then he starts just looking around at Rapture, at the thing that he helped build,
Yeah.
And they comment, this is where it kind of gets into the commentary on the art style of the city, where a lot of the design was from the World's Fair of 1934, and then also like Art Deco, where you have human like people at like peak physical condition.
Yeah,
and we talked about
zenith,
that. At the zenith. Relief images of men cheerfully pulling chains decorated the walls. Everywhere, art decoratif trimming, often shaped like rays of light emanating from glistening knobs, intricate borders evoking both the industrial scale of the modern world and the temples of Babylon and Egypt, which is, that's a really great description. That's like a good visual of like
absolutely
the way Art Deco, kind of vibes.
Yeah. It's that classical men with muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles, and sun god paganism, basically. In many ways, and but the god that you're worshiping is yourself,
right?
For all intents and purposes. I am that man. I am that that great man, if only metaphorically. You don't see as many bodybuilding objectivists as you would think.
No.
Although I can speak from experience, there are a few that get really caught up in the physical aspect of it. I've met a couple that were like exercise fanatics because they believed sincerely that was part of it. It's like you got to perfect your body and your mind.
Like it's almost like but I'll say they you get people like Joe Rogan, who
yes.
I would not accuse him of being objectivist, because that assumes that he has that presupposes that he understands things.
Right. I feel like every time I imagine Joe Rogan, I just see a wave of knowledge crashing over him, and then the wave pulling back, and he is somehow dry. He has to have everybody in the room. He wants everyone at the table, and he will gain nothing from the experience.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. We also get told in this section that a lot of people have died to make this reality happen for a lot of ungenius reasons.
Yeah.
It's just cheap. They talk about people being lazy and cutting corners and all that stuff, which... people cutting corners in an unregulated, society. Who would have thunk it? But then it cuts to our favorite, Fontaine. We get back to fucking Fontaine, man.
Fontaine, yeah.
Yes, who is actually doing a pretty good job running this fishing business.
Yeah, this guy can just kill his way up the ladder with the best of them.
He's actually you just imagine, it's like he must be a really good manager. Like he's
very good at managing people.
If it weren't for the fact that the job is a con, in the sense that like he is not who he says he is, and he stole the job,
and he's just an absolutely violent murderer of a man.
Right. If it weren't for all of that, it would just be the story of a guy who was like, well, I've got my little fishing business and I made good. It's really, really funny.
Frank Gorland became Frank Fontaine. We have no idea if he has any real fishing experience before that, but he inherits a business by way of murder.
Yep. He murders his way to the middle.
He's a murderous middleman, and he's floating around in the North Atlantic, and he's been sending letters down to Rapture to try to get Andrew Ryan's attention, because basically they do the fishing and then they sell the fish to Rapture, basically some contacts that go back down to Rapture, and he's been sending these letters down, and he has clearly finally caught their attention, because who but Sullivan shows up. Sullivan, our former cop. Not a cop.
Fucking cop. God. The day that my fiance told me that The Departed was one of her favorite movies and that she could watch it day in and day out.
Yeah.
She didn't care how depressing it was. That was the day that I called my mother and I was like, I think I'm going to propose.
I think I've found the one.
I think I found the one. But Sullivan, the co-op, they have a discussion. He warns Fontaine that there's no leaving.
Yeah.
If you join Rapture, there's no getting out. So if you're in,
you're in.
If you're in, you're in. And then he admits that Ryan has been getting his letters and is kind of impressed.
Yeah.
And so basically he says, so we're extending an invite. Fontaine says, well, when do we start? And they go, right the fuck now, bitch.
It's like, get in, and the sub pops up.
Yeah. And so Fontaine is offered a place in Rapture. So he's already made it clear that his whole thing is he wants to ingratiate himself.
Yeah.
Somehow take advantage of the system, get some money, and get the fuck out of there.
That's his plan. It's a pretty.
That's his plan for now.
He wants to do exactly what it says on the tin. He wants to con the billionaire out of money.
Right. Which is the American dream.
That's really, honestly, have you seen Billionaires lately? That's a noble goal.
That is what you want to do. Like, Fontaine is still our hero. There's no way around this. He is still the most admirable person in this book.
Now, let's be honest. He's a murderer.
Oh yeah, sure.
But let's put a pin in the murder.
All things being equal, though.
All things being equal. We're rooting for Frank Fontaine.
I'm rooting for Fontaine, and if you're reading this book now, if you say to me, "I'm not rooting for any of these people," all right, fine, Killjoy. But
come on.
But if you're going to root for any of them, if you say anyone,
root for the guy,
then Fontaine, or like one of the random workers who has a pipe wrench and a chance to murder one of the billionaires, then I'm calling bullshit. Then your heart is in the wrong place. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna refill this wine. What they don't tell you is if you want to successfully co-host a podcast of any stripe, you need lots of right bank Bordeaux. So it's a very important thing.
It's a super important thing.
The tannins keep your back straight.
They keep your back straight, your tongue wet.
Yes. Until you've had too much, and then they dries that shit out real fast. But yeah.
Keep that wet tongue wet.
Cool. That's another t-shirt.
That's another t-shirt right there.
Keep that wet tongue wet.
Keep the wet tongue wet.
The way I see it is you're a teetotaler, so I have to make sure to wine for both of us.
Drink for both of us, please.
Yes.
I encourage you.
That's what I'm here for, man. And it's worked so far.
It is. It's a good 1-2 punch.
Exactly. All right. And that brings us to chapter 7.
Yeah. We're in 1948 at Sinclair Solutions down in Rapture. And have we met Sinclair yet? I think he's been referenced, but I think
Sinclair's been referenced. I don't think we've met him yet.
Yeah.
So it's him and Sullivan.
Him and Sullivan are talking about Tenenbaum. Tenenbaum, who is a very big character in Bioshock 1. And Sinclair is actually one of the protagonists of, not protagonists, but so far I've been playing Bioshock 2. He kind of fills the void as the voice that's helping you.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So he's not dead as of Bioshock 2, which takes place like 20 years after this. So,
man, I gotta get to that game.
Yeah.
Dr. Tenenbaum is she's a doctor, she's a scientist, and all they know really for sure is that her work has something to do with heredity.
Yes.
Which to me, anyone, and that's just a big old klaxon, blaring red lights.
She's a German scientist who's been doing a lot of genetics and heredity research.
Yeah.
Dicey.
It's already problematic, and nothing's actually happened.
It's like clearly like the U.S. government, Operation Paperclip. Just what were you guys doing?
Right.
But Rapture is like, you know what? We got our own paperclip right here, Dr. Tenenbaum.
Yeah, she's the only paperclip we need.
She's the only paperclip we need.
Oh, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and she hasn't even done anything yet, and you're already starting to feel kind of itchy in terms of like, oh boy, this could be real bad. So they're talking about whether or not she's worth having on the team, and I this quote to me is kind of important. They say, but Tenenbaum, Sinclair went on, she's taking blood from people by the bucket, and more than one of them collapsed. You're afraid you're doing something unethical? This was a word that didn't get too much use in Rapture. Sinclair blinked. Huh? Unethical? Hell, Chief, I've been on the same page as Andrew about altruism, all that stuff for years. Why do you think I was brought in so early? Worrying about ethics. I don't do it. I came here to strike it rich. Yeah. And that's a big one. That's another thing. I keep bringing up the parallels between this and Atlas Shrugged. Altruism is one of those bad words.
Yes.
Because the whole idea is that altruism is charity that is forced upon you. You're forced to be good.
Yeah, and that's something that comes up later. Is I believe Andrew Ryan specifically says, "Oh yeah, charity is communism." That's like a literal line.
Yes.
He says later.
That's the part where you flash the words across the screen. This is what objectivists actually believe.
Yes.
It is absolutely insane.
He's like so afraid. It's weird because Sinclair's so afraid of using the word unethical, but then he's also like, but what if she goes too far? And be like, well, I don't know, Sinclair, what would you call that?
Right. And that's the tap dancing that these people in this society have to go through. Because on one hand, ethics is not a thing for them. They don't believe it, because if you talk about something being unethical, that means that just by virtue of it being an ethics situation, you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And it's a free market society. We don't touch that shit. It's unregulated. And so there is no such thing as ethics for us. But we're worried that this person who is Nazi adjacent could do something bad. And so he's just playing this he's doing this funny little dance, trying to get the right words in to express himself without sounding like he isn't a true believer in the cause. Because that's a great way of getting your ass ostracized and not kicked out.
Not kicked out because they'll never kick you out.
No one's going anywhere. But they could sure as hell fire you, and you're stuck down there with no job and no means of supporting yourself and no way of getting out.
Yeah.
So already you're getting that kind of, dictatorial USSR kind of thing going on.
Right. You're also getting, so Ryan is worried about the communist infiltrators constantly.
Right.
Here's the funny thing is the workers they talk about how the workers have started talking about, their troubles.
Mm-hmm.
Without any prompt, without any,
no, they just naturally
there's no Das Kapital, lying around. It's just like, hey, the workers are unhappy and now they're starting to talk. And Ryan is worried, Sinclair and Sullivan talking about how Ryan is worried about, stuff like that. They've been hearing things, yada, yada, yada. But it's just funny because like, even in the, even in the darkness, like there's like a little pinpoint of light that's just like kind of like no matter how much you try to put it out. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. It's almost as if people will fight back when stepped upon, no matter what your stupid, fantasy world creed happens to believe.
Right.
But you know what he for all this stuff that Ryan is worried about, you know what he isn't worried about? A coca plant.
He's not worried about cocaine.
There is a person down there who has set aside a piece of Rapture to grow coca leaves and start manufacturing cocaine. Ryan's fine with that.
Fine. Make your drugs.
He's good with that.
If people don't want drugs, then they won't buy them, and
then they won't buy them.
And the free market will dictate that.
Exactly. That's just, and he will succeed or fail based entirely on those stats. That is it.
All right, so that takes us to a year later. In the scene change, and Frank Fontaine has already set up Fontaine Fisheries. He's established his storefront.
He's wasted absolutely no time, which kind of makes Andrew Ryan nervous.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be the last time that Ryan is nervous about Fontaine's work, but it's definitely the first time with this, and this is the first time that the two of them meet, actually.
Mm-hmm. And so basically what happens is, so it's almost like Ryan trying to reassert some sort of dominance over Frank Fontaine, or assert some dominance, because they haven't really gotten to know each other that well.
He's absolutely there to remind him who's the big boss.
He's the alpha. He is the fake wolf science alpha in this situation.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what he is. And it's kind of hilarious because Fontaine just right off the bat sort of like openly mocks him, if not mocks him, kind of just disdains him. Everything Ryan says, you can just kind of hear Fontaine going, they just you
worried about that?
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious. And in my head, I was like, that might be a mistake, but Ryan actually respects him for it.
Yeah,
that's stupid.
And Ryan says something. Ryan has a decent line in here where he's talking about contraband, and even ideas can be contraband. He mentions. Which is kind of setting the tone for where Ryan's character is going. Because Ryan, as he is right now, is not going to be the same man in book time in like 7 years or something like that. He'll believe he is still the pure objectivist. But he is kind of fallen far, just right into that it's basically kind of like a mix of the right wing statist, where he thinks he's objectivist. He's not. Yeah.
The same way that the right will say we're all about fewer laws, and then they try to pass a bunch of laws outlawing things that they don't like.
Yes.
And he kind of like starts to collapse in on himself, like a paranoid flan. It's eating him up. The red scare shit is eating him up. He's surrounded by incompetence, and
right.
And he's just trying to protect himself in a way.
Yeah.
And as a result, as we go along, he starts becoming less free market and more dictatorial.
Sure.
Which I would argue is always inevitable.
Yeah, it's going to get there eventually.
One tends to follow the other.
The other thing is Fontaine is like, hey, I should have a seat on the council. Like, yeah. And Ryan's like, no.
Yeah, it was kind of like Fontaine's ultimate, like, I gotta try.
Yeah, I'll shoot my shot. Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like, fuck it, tried.
That guy from the future.
Yeah, I really admire his future game with his stick,
with the stick and the puck and the ice.
Yeah.
So another year goes by. Now it's 1949, and
yes.
it's a conversation, and it's between Elaine and Bill McDonough, and Elaine is voicing her concern.
Yes. And first off, at this point, Elaine is pregnant.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of the concern comes from. She's like worried about raising a kid in Rapture. What's that going to be like? And Bill's like super confident everything's going to be great, because Bill, as we'll see, he isn't a true believer per se.
Right.
He's just grateful.
Yeah.
You know,
he's very grateful that that Andrew Ryan gave him this shot, you know?
That's exactly it. He's grateful for the opportunity, and he's loyal.
Right.
He's not necessarily, and we'll see this more and more as we go. He doesn't necessarily believe fully in all the politics behind it.
Right. Because when presented with an option, when presented with the choice to do the self-serving profitable thing and to do the right thing, Bill at his heart is going to do the right thing.
Yeah. And he does.
And he does. There will be a few times where that kind of comes to play. But yeah, so it's kind of a rough, like it's like a reassuring, things will be fine kind of conversation. And
don't you worry, by the way, guys, if you're worried that just because this is like a vaguely futuristic late 40s, early 50s kind of world, and you're worried that Bill isn't going to like talk down to his pregnant wife, don't you worry. Bill is
totally still a misogynist.
Oh my God. The way he talks to her half the time, you're like, and I get it. I don't blame the author. Like, he's probably right. Like, these kind of guys would totally talk this way to their wives. Doesn't make it a hell of a lot easier to read.
No. No. We cut over to, we're on a train now with Stanley Poole, who is a character. He's on the tier list of characters. He's one that's not going to show up that often, but he's here now, and he's a reporter. And he's there just to do a puff piece for Carson Fiddle, who is designing the amusement park for Andrew Ryan. And they talk about like the not animatronics, animatronics. Animatronics that Fiddle is designing. Fiddle is kind of like a like he would have been a Disney type, totally, an Imagineer type for Disney, because he has a lot of visions for what he wants this amusement park to be.
Absolutely. There's that. I totally agree. This is a very Disney character. He's your Uncle Walt. He's like friendly and kind of a visionary and kind of a child at heart sort of dude. But he's also very, very much a businessman.
Exactly. But the meat of it is that Poole overhears a conversation between Ryan and Prentice Mill. And basically Prentice Mill is complaining that Augustus Sinclair is trying to like edge him out of the train business. And Ryan's just like, it's, he's just keeping you off balance. Perfectly normal business tactic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and so basically Poole is just kind of listening into that. And Ryan turns to Poole and says, Poole, you remember our talk, nothing unauthorized. Yeah. And it's like, Poole can't, it's like basically the point of this section is it was like, okay, it's already, the foundation is already rotten. Right? It's already rotten. It goes for somebody who's talking about freedom,
If the whole plan stuck to, if the worst things that happened were Ryan finding just people who were essentially his friends and said, he's a genius, I want him down there. Right. And like, if it stuck to that, then, who couldn't be, who wouldn't do something like that? Sure. You want to be surrounded by your friends, but already before anything even marginally heavy happens, it's clear that he doesn't really give a shit about integrity in the news. He wants the story. He wants to tell the story. He wants to dictate the narrative.
Right. And what's interesting is he he believes he can because he is the owner of the newspaper. You know,
right?
He believes that's his right to.
He sees nothing.
There's nothing untoward about that.
No.
He's not the government, and he's not the government telling him what he can and cannot print. He is the owner of the newspaper telling his reporter, that what he can and cannot print, which is. It's one of those weird, dicey, slippery slope type of things where, okay, well, in the absence of an actual government,
it is tech without any context to surround it.
Yeah,
it is technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
Exactly. without any kind of context to guide it, without any mentioning of the fact that this is the only newspaper in the area, that for all intents and purposes in Rapture, he is the monarch, with like all of that other shit.
Right.
Without all of that other shit, yes, I suppose he is right.
Right. So we move on to quite possibly the most disturbing scene so far.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which is great. The examination of Elaine, Bill's wife, by Dr. Suchong and Dr. Tenenbaum.
It is really upsetting.
It's very upsetting. Suchong basically is examining her as if she's cattle.
Yeah. They both for all, I just kind of imagine, because the fact of the matter is the regular doctor isn't available.
Right.
And so Bill basically says, well, one doctor's just as good as another.
They're doctors.
The doctor's a doctor.
They're professionals.
He got his PhD in literature, so he's qualified to give you a pap smear. And that's basically what happens. And I just imagined it as them like yanking up her skirt and staring at her private parts, and I wasn't too far off.
No, you were not.
They are, Suchong and Tenenbaum are very, very comically almost unfeeling, clinical, and exactly
cold.
Yes, and exactly the team you need for your genetic murder laboratory.
Yeah. I mean, cold, I would actually go so far as to say is that Suchong is hateful. He has he has hate in his heart for children.
Yes, children specifically. So yeah, it's not a great examination, but what it leads to is Bill seeing, he's kind of lingering while Elaine is getting dressed, and he sees just this grotesque genetic abomination that Suchong and Tenenbaum and Gil Alexander and Ryan are just kind of like talking over, and they're talking about like the transfer. They're basically getting down into Suchong and Tenenbaum have a nature versus nurture debate. Yeah.
In like about whether this about like whether they're correct.
Yeah, the plan here, and it was kind of comical in a way, like, because he's literally like, his wife was literally just kind of like visually violated by these two psychopath doctors.
Right.
And then like she goes to get dressed and he wanders around, and suddenly the two psychopath doctors are looking into this glass tube with Ryan. It's like, well, on to the next thing now.
Yeah.
And basically the idea is that Ryan's looking for procedures on these, like the person in the tube. There are parts that are there are metal pieces that seem to be fused with the body. It's basically a proto Big Daddy.
Yeah.
And Ryan's looking for procedures that will make workers work harder, longer hours, without complaining, without rest, without food, that kind of thing.
Right.
Which is a great sign. Which is just a sign that
sign that everything's all right.
Everything's doing fine.
Everything's doing great.
He wants what's best for his workers and for society at large.
Of course.
And this is great.
This is doing great. And okay, so I'm going to pause for a minute and talk about Dr. Suchong. And
please.
So the game is not great at it. I wish the novel was also better at the way Suchong's dialogue is written. because it is not great.
It is not, and it's made worse if you're listening to the audiobook.
Oh, it is bad if you're listening to the audiobook.
For anyone who doesn't get what we're talking about, Sushang is Korean.
Yeah.
And that mostly in the book pops up as kind of weirdly stilted dialogue in a way that is written in such a way that is clearly English is this person's second language.
Sure.
And then at one point they mention that he's mixing his R's and his L's up.
Yeah.
Which not great. And that's already bad enough. But then with the audiobook, of course, the reader chooses to go ahead and do that for the character, even in places where it is not mentioned in the book.
Right.
I guess for consistency?
Sure, I guess. It's not great. Like, here's the thing.
It's not great.
It's just your generic stereotypical Asian accent that anybody would have put on in like pre-2000s comedy to try to be funny, right?
Right.
And
it's not really, not played for a gag.
Yeah.
To its credit. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's not great.
And he's also described as having a thin Asian face.
I forgot about that.
Which, come on, man. Like, there are people who get like 2 sentences of description, and Dr. Sushang he's got a thin Asian face.
Thin Asian face.
Okay.
And if you've got a thin Asian face, you know what the other characteristics are. Come on. Yeah. Let's finish this book.
Let's move on. So, and that's the thing. For everything good that this author does, it's still, it's still not perfect. And there are some really rough depictions.
We got some problems.
And here's the thing. It's the way that he has some of the men talking to women in the book. It's fine. It's period appropriate. The misogyny patriarchal thing is rampant, even in a city like Rapture, where everybody's supposed to be quote unquote equal.
Right. Well, especially then. Let's face facts.
Especially then. But in this instance, it's just it's like a unforced error.
Yeah, that no one made you do that.
No one made you do that.
There's no, you didn't need to make a character whose English was like stereotypical Cole Porter, anything goes bad.
Sure.
It's that's my little musical reference for the evening.
Yeah.
But it was just, it's distracting on top of everything else.
Suchong doesn't show up often. He shows up often, but not often enough to like make it the biggest problem ever. But
when he does, but here's the thing, and honestly, and this is my privilege, but if it weren't for I don't think I'd notice it as much if it weren't for the fact that he's actually a pretty interesting character.
Sure.
He's a really interesting character. So you're right, he doesn't show up all that often, but when he does show up, he says some kind of horrifying things.
Oh, he is absolutely horrifying, and it's kind of
great
neat.
Villain.
He's a great
it's
villainous.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
But so having that moment in there, it makes it's like trying to drive stick when you haven't done it in 10 years. You're like, I can't get started here.
Right.
It's just a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. I also saw that.
So we basically we cut back. Basically, Bill and Elaine are now at Fort Frolic, which is the entertainment district, so to speak.
Elaine is not impressed.
Yeah, she is not impressed. She's not impressed by the strip club.
She's not impressed by the gambling halls.
She's not impressed by the gambling halls. It's basically just like, because it's kind of like the lowest common denominator of entertainment has started popping up, and nothing against strip clubs.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with either. If that's something you like.
If that's something you like, but it's also like basically the ones that drive the most capital are the ones that are popping up. It's not like the artistic entertainment, except for Sandra Cohen's bullshit. And that's only because Andrew Ryan happens to like him.
right. And it's that's the thing. For all the talk about the free market, the free market is garbage a lot of time. And you know, you can see that in real life in things like, for example, VHS versus Betamax, that old story. Why did VHS beat out Betamax? Because porn took to VHS. Porn shows, the industry on the whole, for the most part, decided we're going to put our products on VHS. And for that reason, because it was the vast majority of people were buying VHS.
It was cheap. VHS was slightly cheaper to produce than Betamax,
and it didn't matter that it was lower quality.
It was a lower quality than Betamax was, but who cared? Betamax,
they were saving some money.
Yeah, and then the Betamax format and the beta format went on to have professional applications, but was never a consumer application. In fact, I used beta. Even in film school, I was still using, I was not like the Betamax tapes, but I was using beta lineage tapes to lay stuff back to.
That's neat. I didn't
so
know that.
Yeah, the beta stuff became a professional application, mainly the technology, and it just didn't have a consumer application because VHS ruled the day.
Right. And we're seeing stuff like that with this, where it's like, yeah, you got your musicals, they go to see shows and that kind of thing. But the vast majority of the entertainment is gambling and tits and ass.
They passed
love both.
They passed the liquor and drug emporium, Les Marquis d'Epoque, which was quite thronged.
Yeah, that's where everybody is. And the gambling especially is very telling because, you know, you're dealing with denizens who are dedicated entirely to making as much money as possible, striking it rich and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So even in their leisure time, they're going to be interested in trying to make money.
Yeah.
Or losing money and not caring about it. It really does say a lot about who you're dealing with here.
Right. But while Elaine is not impressed, Bill is kind of like taking it in, like, yeah, I did this. It's like Rapture's alive and it's energetic and it's vibrant and this is me. You know, I helped make this happen.
Yeah, he's proud of it. He's really proud of it. And then as kind of like a bookend to that, they end up going to see another Sandra Cohen musical. And Bill isn't impressed, and I don't think anybody would be. They do a lot of John Shirley does a great job of like showing you the art that these people are creating, that these supposed geniuses are making.
Sure.
And it's all very stilted and shitty.
Yeah.
But it's not so shitty that I like read it. I read the lyrics to these songs and everything like that. And I do want to be fair when it comes to good storytelling and that sort of thing. So if he were just taking cheap pot shots or something like that, I would be like, look, I might happen to agree with him, but that's a cheap shot and it's boring. The lyrics and the work is just good enough that you could absolutely see this kind of thing getting made.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm talking about because it is now November. And in November and December, me and my fiance watch nothing but shitty Christmas movies. It's become a tradition for us. And these are some of the worst scripts with some of the worst actors, with some of the laziest, most talentless hack of directors. And they get made.
Yeah.
They get made. So this is not as bad as that.
Right.
But it's still pretty bad. So you can kind of imagine it getting
so
made.
I have a friend who was in talks with Lifetime or one of those channels to direct a movie like that.
Sure.
And apparently it's like they give you everything, and it's like 2 weeks. And it's like here's the shot charts, here's all that stuff. Like,
okay, so there's like no room for
the directors
artistic
barely even
interpretation.
have any artistic like input on it. It like they're just there to keep the train moving.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense because you do feel like you're not getting something that's crafted. You feel like you're getting a product.
Right. So it only takes like 2 weeks to shoot these things. They get them in, they get them out. They're in editing and they're up, and that's why there's a few of these networks that make a lot of these movies.
Right.
It feels like there's 1,000 of these types of movies.
So many of them, and it's kind of hilarious because when we started this last year, because in September and October we watched nothing but horror films.
Sure.
And then in November, Emily said, "Let's watch some holiday films," because we're both, as much as we both love Halloween and we like spooky shit, we're all also actually total crazy people for Christmas.
Sure.
As secular as we are, and like we like the season, we really enjoy Christmas.
Yeah.
It's nice. And so we ended up somehow watching 2 months of these movies, and some of them are offensively bad. Others are just, boring and just not well made. And every now and then you get one that you're like, actually, that had some moments.
That wasn't the worst, It
wasn't the worst. And it's kind of hilarious because as we've done them, I'd never watched these movies before.
Right.
Before last year. And as we've watched them, I've started to broaden my repertoire of what I've seen. And the first few movies we watched are actually pretty popular movies in that world. And they're called The Christmas Prince.
Okay.
It's a trilogy.
Sure.
And they are, I hated them. She made me watch all 3 of them in a row, and I hated them. And now, though, over a year later, I have found myself, based on the stuff we've watched, I find myself thinking about A Christmas Prince and being like, that really wasn't that bad.
Comparatively, no, it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And I start to realize there's an audience for these movies.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to become that audience.
You are the audience.
They've hooked me in.
I think it's, what it is. Part of it is they're not that expensive to make.
No.
The money that they probably get on just like the ad runs alone during first run is probably enough to cover whatever the expense was.
Every now and then they'll have some sort of, weird B-list cameo.
Sure.
Although one of the ones, it was one of the worst Christmas movies I'd ever seen, but it had Joey Fatone in it.
Oh.
Yeah. And I found myself, and I remember going, Joey Fatone, what the fuck is he doing? But he was actually kind of funny and charming.
Sure.
Like he was actually having fun. He was trying his damnedest to have fun.
Yeah.
So anytime he got into the scene, we started going, Joey's here, Joey's here. And we got excited to see Joey Fatone. Yeah. And I gave the movie, I rate the movies, and I gave it half a star. And I made it very clear that's half star belonged to Joey Fatone.
That's Joey's star.
That is Joey's star. That if you hadn't put that cameo in there. But yeah, their budgets are weird like that because, like, on one hand, yeah, you're right. They clearly aren't going through these very fast, and it probably is just a shoestring budget. On the other hand, they'll occasionally have these kind of people that's like, this person used to have a career.
Yeah.
Like most of the money must have gone to this person.
Right.
Or some sort of deal where like they get a percentage or something like that.
Slide them in there. They had nothing to do.
Slide them in. Give them a producer credit or something like that. But anyway, that's our Christmas movie.
Christmas movie.
Tangent.
Talking about Christmas movies.
If you want to listen to a podcast of me and Emily discussing the horrifying holiday movies.
Oh my God.
That we're watching,
do you guys do that?
That would be, I think we could do that actually. The more I think about it, the more
it could just be a mini series that runs during the holiday season.
Yeah, we'll run it November through December or something like that.
Oh,
season after season.
That would be,
oh my God.
That would be amazing.
All right, where were we?
We were Bill is doing something down in the heat loss monitoring station down in Hephaestus, which is a nice reference. Like, very calling it Hephaestus is cool. Who is like He's a Greek god of blacksmiths.
He was the smithy of the gods.
Yeah.
He was lame, and he was, and I don't mean I'm not passing a judgment call. His legs did not work.
Sure.
And he was the ugliest of the gods, and he was married to Aphrodite, who cheated on him constantly.
Oh, but poor guy.
Yeah, it's a cool reference. It's a fucking
cool reference. Yeah. And I believe his hammer is you find his hammer in Hades. If you're playing Hades, the upgrade item, if you want to upgrade your weapon for that run, you get Hephaestus's hammer, I believe, if I recall correctly.
I gotta play that game.
Anyway, yeah. So what is Bill doing down in?
He's with Ryan again. Ryan wants his opinion. At this point it's 1950.
Yep.
And the city's been settled for about 2 years. Bill's baby's been delivered. Everyone's kind of settled in. And Ryan is wanting Bill's opinion on just various projects. At different points in the book, Bill basically, it shows that Bill's kind of sick of being Ryan's spaniel, essentially. Right. He kind of clicks his heels and Bill's expected to follow along. Yeah. Ryan's becoming way more paranoid about, parasites.
Parasites, yeah.
Yeah, he's hearing rumors of unions. And on top of that, and to make matters worse, they need more workers.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't you know it, this is not exactly a society where skilled blue-collar laborers are thrilled to come in and join on the fun.
And join on the fun and also not get paid because there's no minimum wage, which will come up later.
Right.
But yeah, so and this is hilarious because Bill proposes to Ryan that you can't just tamp down on these ideas. They have to just go ahead and thrive in the marketplace of ideas.
Right.
And this convinces Andrew Ryan to back off on forcing down the union talk.
Yeah. Yeah. He uses like a dark net buzzword. And it actually works.
It's like objectivism judo that that Bill uses on Andrew Ryan.
Yeah. And Bill, and you get the real distinction that Bill doesn't give a shit.
No.
He just wants Ryan to shut the fuck up for a minute.
Just shut up about the goddamn parasites. Jesus Christ, Ryan.
And Ryan actually says how he's talking about and Ryan admits to also not liking Fontaine. He's not happy with all of his stuff, even though he isn't doing anything wrong as far as he can tell, but he doesn't like him. He claims that he likes competition, quote, within reason.
Right.
That doesn't sound very free market to me.
Yeah, within reason.
Within reason.
Which is hilarious given some of the later scenes.
Oh yeah. He's basically, he basically says that he's worried about Frank's connection to the outside world.
Because the fishermen are the only ones who technically leave Rapture. It's like the fishermen kind of go outside of the city to catch their fish, and other than Fontaine, the only other person who goes to the surface, I think, is Bill and Sullivan occasionally.
Right. Every now and then.
Yeah.
And only on business kind of trips. And it's really funny because he's just, the idea of people leaving is so distasteful to him, not just because of the aspect of like bringing back contraband, like he says, ideas are contraband, Bibles, union papers, stuff like that. But just he sees people leaving as quitters.
Right.
People want to leave. They want to go. That's not working out for them. And he loathes them as quitters. But instead of actually letting them go, he forces them to stay.
Right.
So Bill's trying to like, and Bill's trying to calm him down. It's like you said, he tells him like, hey, we gotta people are gonna talk. They're gonna bitch. Just let it go.
Just let it go.
And Ryan kind of questions Bill's loyalty for a moment. Says, do you still believe in this? And Bill's like, absolutely.
100% I still believe. My wife.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Ryan comes up with this great idea with a capital G. He says, I plan to start a new program of civic education. Banners, a great many more of them, educational announcements on television and public address, and billboards. I'm bringing in someone to help us train them to see that the world outside Rapture is the real prison, and Rapture is real freedom. Oh boy, this is working out great.
Enter Dr. Sophia Lamb.
Dr. Lamb. Now, this is an interesting character, a very interesting character.
She is a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And she believes the same thing that Ryan believes, that society is sick, and she actually believes that were the world a person, she would give the diagnosis of suicidal.
Right. It's a great line.
Yeah. But basically we have Ryan is interviewing Dr. Lamb. She had been in Japan when one of the bombs dropped.
Right.
So she saw firsthand, and that a lot of her, some of her clients, so to speak, were killed in the dropping of the bomb. And she there's immediately a little bit of tension between her and Ryan, because while they have these same views of the outside world, that it is poisoned, they have very different points of view on how to fix the outside world, or how to fix Rapture. And she also talks about, like, so he goes, it's a pleasure to have you join us in our Brave New World. And she goes, Brave New World, a reader of Shakespeare. The Tempest, was it not? And then he's like, oh, are you surprised I'm familiar with Shakespeare? And she says, she responds, no, you're a wealthy man. You can afford to educate yourself. Mm-hmm. And it was not an obvious criticism.
It's a little jab. Yeah.
Yet somehow it was condescending. But she smiled, and he saw a glint of charisma. So yeah, right away they are immediately a little tense, and they talk a little bit more about the Hiroshima thing. But yeah, they basically, he wants her there as the psychiatrist to talk to the people of Rapture, and also help him come up with some of these educational plans, but also like write up a general report of what's going on in the minds of the people of Rapture from her psychiatric point of view.
And it's such an interesting, it just shows you, here's the thing. I like Lamb, and anyone on our side of the political aisle will like Lamb, on at least for her politics, at least for her stance on economic values, stuff like that.
Right.
But she's we will find out she's just as much of a fanatic on a certain level as Ryan is. Equally narcissistic, I would argue. And on top, but despite all of that, Ryan, it just shows you more about how bad Ryan's fucking decision making is.
Right.
Where it's like, she is so clearly the wrong person.
Totally the wrong person for this role.
She doesn't, she hides it, but not well.
No.
And he still gives her a crazy important job.
Right.
Tapping into the pulse of the people of Rapture.
Right.
You know, a man who is so paranoid about ideas, he gives that job to her, and it's just like, at that point you're like, well, you deserve anything you get.
Yeah.
At this point.
This is come on, man. He really shoots himself in the foot a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is chapter 8, by the way. This is how chapter 8 begins.
This is how chapter 8 begins. Yeah, we have started chapter 8, and now we are at Neptune's Bounty, which is where Fontaine's Fishery is located. It's kind of that.
Yes.
If you played Bioshock, it's kind of an icy level. It's the ice level.
Yeah, it's the ice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Tenenbaum is interacting with the dock workers out there.
Oh my God.
It's so fucking weird.
It's
Tenenbaum,
so weird.
every time Tenenbaum shows up, I get kind of like, ooh, because what kind of fucking weird shit is she gonna do this time?
One of the dock workers, she was trying to extract semen from the dock worker, and her method of doing that was jamming a needle into his balls.
Yeah.
And the guy ends up screaming and running out of the clinic with his pants down and a needle in his testicles.
Right. Which is just like, not only that just shows you how she's a bad doctor. Like that's for a lot of reasons. Don't get me wrong. She's a bad doctor for like, you know, eugenics style
for
reasons
Nazi
too.
reasons.
Yeah. But that's also just like that's just ignoring Occam's razor so much that it like just like, oh, we need semen. Well, I know what I will do.
Yeah. A needle in the testicles.
A needle in the balls.
Right in the balls.
So she's been let go from that particular position. She's still in Rapture. She's still working, but they're not asking her to collect semen samples anymore.
Please stop collecting semen samples.
Please stop doing that.
The core of this scene, though, is that she sees a guy by the name of Stiffy.
Which just that, come on, that wasn't a coincidence.
Come on, man.
You did that on purpose, surely.
Yeah, you did. Who is playing catch with another guy, and Stiffy had the nickname because his hands barely worked. One hand didn't work at all, the other one only half worked, but now he's catching and throwing a ball. And Tenenbaum's like, how did that happen? And he tells her the story of getting bit by the sea slug. And wouldn't you know it, he got bit by the sea slug and his hands worked. They healed up quite nicely. And he happens to have the slug still. He kept it because a free enterprising man of Rapture he is. He kept it in a bucket filled with seawater because, hey, you might be able to sell it to somebody.
Might be able to sell it to somebody. And that somebody is a recently fired Nazi doctor who is wondering why people looked at her weird for stabbing a man in the testicles to get his semen.
Yeah. So,
so she has acquired one sea slug. Little Tenenbaum chibi holding it above her head.
Up a single sea.
You got one sea slug. That is her success.
That is her success. She gets that sea slug. And we cut back to Dr. Lamb's office. And basically it's the middle of a therapy session.
Yes.
And she's
with a worker
who is regretting, like, he's clearly regretting a lot. He regrets that he brings his kids. He thought this was going to be like a road to riches thing, like the Comstock mine. And then he's really laying it all out there. And then he's like, oh, wait, you work for Ryan, right? And she's like, well, yeah, kind of. But, you know, anything you say is going to be confidential. You know, this is just going to, like, it'll be in a general report. Get in trouble. Yeah, it'll be in a general report, but there's not going to be any names or anything. And he buttons up. Right away. He's like, oh, no, I wasn't misled. They were straight with me. It's perfectly fine. I'm fine. We're all fine.
Everything's cool.
We're all fine here. Thank you. How are you?
Exactly. And this leads to Lamb's the first sign I mentioned before of like this kind of budding leader in her, where she starts to become convinced that she believes that Rapture's going to fail.
Yeah.
She does a little diary entry and she's like pretty much convinced Rapture's going to fail. And but after these psychotherapy sessions, she starts to believe, unless I
can stop it from failing, because It shows, she writes down, subjects are typical in mistrust of Ryan and feeling of alienation. Social claustrophobia at boiling point for some. Financial status a key factor. Higher incomes show less anxiety. Oh,
Right.
I mean, goddamn.
Yeah. So we're getting a Ryan rival, if you will.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to go.
I wonder how that's going to go. I wonder if somebody is, we'll see. Meanwhile, at Pumping Station 5.
Yes.
Bill McDonough
this is great.
Is doing some cleanup work, and Ryan's like, oh, there's a puddle of stuff on the sidewalk. Why is that there? You got to make sure you fix that up. And Bill is like, well, funny you mentioned that. I wouldn't have to fix it up so often if the factories weren't using such corrosive chemicals.
Right.
And Brian's like, that smells like regulation. That smells like regulation to me, Bill.
Right. And Bill's he's doing the tap dance, man. He's doing what he can. And he says to him, well, when you think about it, it's good for us too, because these same heavily corrosive chemicals are polluting the water, and that could be a problem for us down the line, because the fish we eat live in that water and all that stuff. And Ryan, who is a well-known scientist,
like, the water dilutes it all. It's fine.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
We couldn't possibly do that.
We can't.
There's no way.
You can't pollute the water. You can't pollute
the water.
You can't pollute
so
the water
badly that every fish in existence has a level of mercury in it that may or may not be driving us all completely insane as we consume said fish / mercury. That's just not a thing that happens.
It's not
and then, as if to prove Bill's point, they're wandering down the street, and there's this storefront that is just flooded with garbage, completely covered.
It's two grocery stores. There's one flooded with garbage, and then there's another one across the street from it.
Right. And they have been diversifying, as the book says, which, you mean basically they own more than one business.
Right.
The grocery store is one of them. And the other guy, the guy who, one of the grocery store gentlemen also owns the cleanup crews around there that clean up the streets. And he's charging everyone else a reasonable amount, but his competitor, the other grocery store, he's charging an ungodly amount that the guy will never be able to pay.
Shep has bought the garbage pickup company, and Gravenstein, who is beset by the garbage, is like, he's just trying to run me out of business. And Ryan is like, all's fair in capitalism and capitalism.
Right.
And he's like,
and it's kind of
holding his suspenders, like
thumbs through the suspenders. Yes. No, and it's kind of hilarious because he clearly doesn't like the guy who is taking advantage.
Right.
He sees
thinks
as
he's grotesque.
Right. He sees it as a personal failing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it made me think of, I had a friend who, he believed in the whole notion of, he was really into like the manly man kind of thing.
Sure.
And he really believed in the notion that like, oh, well, when two guys fight, it's just a matter of honor. And then when the fight's over, they can shake hands and be friends because they figured it out through, honorable fisticuffs. And I said, I don't know what kind of guys you hung out with growing up.
Yeah.
Anytime someone I knew got his ass beat, or anyone else got their ass beat, they just hated the guy even more.
Right.
They didn't go, well, I lost in the fair battle
of fisticuffs. Now let us be friends.
That's not how this shit works.
It's not.
So Ryan, and it's kind of a similar thing. He believes in this mythology of the gentleman. That seems to be what it is.
Yeah.
Like he loathes Shep for being a bore and a dishonorable person,
right?
But he's not breaking the rules.
And the rules are do whatever you want.
Pretty much. And then so he tells the guy comes to him and says, look, I can't afford this. This isn't fair. I'm doing everything right, and this guy is fucking me over. This isn't normal competition. This is something different.
Right.
And Ryan basically says, be a man.
Yeah.
Deal with it like a man.
Yeah.
And so the guy deals with it like a man.
Gravenstein deals with it like a man. And you know how he deals with it like a man? He goes into a store, he grabs a gun, and he shoots Shep and murders him. Like a man. And now Ryan is frustrated now because you're like, oh, now that is against the law. Like, that's the one thing that you're not allowed to do is murder. And
which is so funny to me because it's like, why draw that line there?
And I could just imagine Ryan like throwing his top hat down and stomping on it like, I got to call a constable now. And then he doesn't have to call anybody because Gravenstein kills himself.
Right. And like a man. He solves the problem. He understood the assignment and he kills himself. And that is how this shit works ultimately.
That is how the Rapture works.
Right.
Meanwhile,
lamb. That's how I'm gonna introduce every chapter section that has lamb in it. Lamb.
She's basically in another psychotherapy session.
Yeah.
And
a woman who's been very kind of gaslit. By how this world works.
So it's a woman named Margie, and it's a nice thematic cut. Because we get Gravenstein killing himself, and we cut to Margie saying, there's only one way out of this burg, Doc, and it's if I kill myself. And then she's like, but I don't even know if that's true, because I think there's ghosts here. And it's like, it is so overwhelmingly sad, like where this woman is at. You know, Sophia is like, ghosts are just in people's mind. And then finally she says, well, maybe I only have myself to blame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is
she blames herself.
She blames herself. And it's like the ultimate in like, she has been gaslit to the point where she like everything bad thing that has happened to her down in Rapture is her fault.
Yeah. Yeah. She blames herself.
So
she has bought the company store line, hook, line, and sinker. Anybody who doesn't know what the company store is, by the way, go ahead and I'm not going to get into it at this point because Christ. Like check out the Wikipedia article on, look it up, country stores and how that shit works.
Sold my soul to the company store.
Exactly. And this is just this is a natural extension of that.
Yeah.
If programs like the New Deal and if certain socialistic things hadn't happened, this is the natural progression of these things.
Right. Yeah. And Sophia writes down, there's a consistent pattern of disappointed expectation and patience. Like everybody who has come to Rapture in that she is talking to is disappointed that that their lives are not better, that Rapture was not some silver bullet. It wasn't a magical cure-all. It wasn't a tincture or a tonic that would make their life better by removing, church and the government and all this stuff that was just standing in their way so they could be great people, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it's sold. That's how that kind of thing is. They always pay lip service to like, and there's going to be some work involved.
Yeah. And Sophia, that's when Sophia just makes the note, the New Deal note to herself, basically. Mm-hmm. No recourse for those stricken by bad luck. No WPA, which was the Works Progress Authority, right?
It's like the CCC, the same basic.
Nothing to catch those who fall. Enormous potential for social ferment. So... Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just she's seeing they're good sections. It kind of initially you might look at this and go, what does this serve that wasn't served already with her last worker? And this is the worker who she was talking to is obviously the laborers, the people on the ground. This is somebody who is even lower on the rung.
Right.
This is a woman who has been forced into prostitution.
Right.
And is if you can even believe it, somehow lower on the rung than some unskilled Navi out there just trying to make a buck. These people are being taken advantage of and hurt.
Right.
And it somehow gets worse.
It somehow just keeps getting worse. And Lamb finishes her thought. A gradual revolution, first in mind and then in fact, transforming Rapture from within. So she has her MO now for dealing with the problems. And then it's back. We get Frankie Fontaine is back in the action.
Oh, thank God. I need a little more Fontaine in my life.
What's he doing? What's he doing here?
Well, Fontaine's still digging on Rapture. He still really seems to be enjoying it, and he's scamming him. As he planned, he started smuggling. He's bringing in beef because the people of Rapture are getting sick of fish because all there is fish.
Right.
I love fish. But eventually you're going to want a steak, or some chicken nuggies, and so he's smuggling
little Mickey
in
D's. Come on,
why not?
Why not?
He's smuggling that in along with Bibles, and he makes a point of saying Ryan hates Bibles. I just laugh at people who like Bibles. He does not have, he doesn't have an opinion on these things. He just knows there's a need for them, and he's bringing it in.
He's a businessman.
Exactly. So he's basically filling in the gaps that Ryan refuses to.
So here's the thing. And I just made this connection, is that the difference between Ryan and Fontaine is that Fontaine is in actuality the objectivist who needs, this is, if you want it to be truly objectivist to the prescribed standards of objectivism or whatever, that's Frank Fontaine.
I don't know if I'd take it that far, only because objectivism is still an ethos.
Sure. Fontaine has none.
Right. To get real Lebowski on you here.
Say what you will about objectivism, man, but it's still an ethos.
It's still an ethos. Exactly. Ryan is still he's
so Fontaine is more of like a nihilist capitalist.
There you go. He's an anarcho-capitalist, if such a thing can even exist, which I'm not sure.
It does. It does.
But he is a nihilist out to make a buck for himself. Fontaine, Ryan, as much of a scumbag as he is, at least has a series of rules.
Sure.
His rules are stupid.
Oh, God.
And he ignores them 50% of the time. But he does have rules, and Fontaine has no rules.
Right.
So they're very similar. They are intensely similar people. And the only reason, and you see it in the way that Ryan, it's kind of hilarious because Ryan regards Fontaine with kind of he knows they don't have the proof. We find out they don't yet have the proof that Fontaine's doing all the smuggling and shit. But they're pretty sure. And even with that knowledge, Ryan kind of respects Fontaine. He goes, he's willing to do what he needs to do. And Fontaine doesn't give a shit about Ryan.
He doesn't give a shit.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. And it's like, and here's the thing, they're both despicable people.
Totally.
But at least with Fontaine, you're like, he's actually living the way he means to live.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna live by some sort of ethos, then fucking do it.
Right.
And that's Ryan can't even pull that off.
No.
For all of his money and connections and all that shit.
Ryan is too concerned with specifics.
Exactly.
Like
He's
Fontaine
too concerned with that
doesn't
shit.
care about the like we're like, oh, that would betray my one rule. We're like, Fontaine's like, rules? Nah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Ryan has a vision. Ryan is very into how smart he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ryan is very wrapped up in being a great man. Fontaine doesn't give a shit about being a great man. He just wants your money.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it is. Ego plays no part in it.
Right.
You know, Fontaine kills a guy and takes his identity and doesn't spend an hour and a half afterwards jerking himself off over how smart he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
He's not building statues to himself.
Right. He's there to take the gems out of the statue's eyes. He is true chaotic neutral thief.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, it's they seem very similar, and they aren't. But there's enough of difference there that
that's
striking.
true. There is a little bit of a and whereas Ryan is lawful evil.
I would argue yes, lawful evil.
Yeah.
Selfishness is a virtue, and I have a code of ethics.
Yes,
even though I won't call them ethics.
Exactly. But what Fontaine is meeting with Dr. Suchong and Dr. Suchong and Tenenbaum, and Tenenbaum's like, yeah, I mean, Ryan kept telling us to work on whatever, and then like wouldn't give us the money to do what we wanted to do.
Right.
And
there's no money to fund them.
Yeah. And Fontaine's like, well then, I would love to, I would love to fuck with Ryan. He's like, Tenenbaum, you're working as a free agent. Yeah, it's a good description. And that's when she mentions the thing about Ryan being inconsistent with the funding. And Suchong is like, yeah, I don't want to make Ryan angry, but we need more money to do the things that we want to do. And the stuff they want to do is pretty fucking horrible. Like Suchong, this is where we have Suchong going, oh, they're so fucking, they're like, we want to experiment, and we know what we need to experiment on, and they're all such babies. We want to experiment on their kids. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I gotta protect the kids. Like he literally says that kind of shit. Yeah. This is great. This is like just misogyny and Rapture.
Here we go.
So this is true what you say. Ryan says work on anything, but research costs money. This is Tenenbaum saying this. Financial support is, what is the word, inconsistent. She flicked her eyes at Suchong. Dr. Suchong does not wish to make Mr. Ryan angry, but we both need more. And Suchong frowned. Woman, do not speak for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
They have a real detente between Suchong and Tenenbaum.
It's kind of amazing. Yeah.
They outwardly don't like each other, and they still work together somehow.
Right. Well, they actually do they don't agree on almost anything.
No.
But they recognize the skill in each other, and if it weren't for them, because I think they openly admit they probably wouldn't be where they are if it weren't for the other.
Yeah, because Suchong is, I forget what his specific specialty is, but he's really more about,
is he the
neurosurgeon, neurology, something like that, because he's more about how the brain and synapses work, whereas she's all about genetics.
Right.
So yeah, they're having a conversation, and Fontaine wants to basically take them under his wing. Suchong has his speech about how vile children are.
And he wants to, and then he wants to experiment on him. And Fontaine says, well, I can't get you that right now, but I could probably get you some adults who have been very naughty.
Yeah. And it's like, Fontaine's like, what's funny is like, there are moments in this story where even Fontaine is gives like a slight pause to what the insane scientists want from him.
Yeah.
And they're like,
everybody seems to have a limit in this book, except for the scientists. Basically, he gets to, he's like, kids, these kids are terrible. It's an experiment on kids. And Fontaine's like, oh, I mean, eventually, sure, why not? Sure, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I can probably get behind that if the paycheck's good.
If the money's good, I can get behind that. But let's start with people.
Let's adults.
Yeah,
we can. And from there they start discussing the beginning of plasmids, essentially, of powers, of being able to manipulate the human body to heal and to do all kinds of things that the body to make the Ubermensch, if you will.
Yeah. And this will lead into the Fontaine futuristics and the plasmids and all that fun stuff.
All that stuff that I know you've all been waiting for.
Yep. So we'll leave it there for this evening, because that was it was a lot of stuff in those chapters.
It's a lot of stuff. It's this part 2 is meaty in so many ways. It covers a lot of ground. It's very long, and it also there's a lot to talk about in this
There's
one.
a lot to stop and talk about.
I wouldn't be surprised if it takes us like three
parts just to get to part 2 of this book.
Exactly.
And you got new characters kind of popping in and out. There is so much happening in part 2 of this book. It is a huge chunk of the book, and so that was the first 3 chapters of part 2. The first 3 or 4 chapters of part 2.
And there are how many chapters?
I think it goes up to chapter 13. But some of these chapters are much longer than others. Even I was looking at the audiobook table of contents, and several of these chapters alone, the chapter is an hour long by itself.
Oh yeah. Sure.
In the audiobook. So they are some beefy chapters in here.
Yeah. We're covering a lot of ground here. And on top of that, it's a highly political book. And that means that me and Kevin are going to go on rants every now and then.
We're going to stop and just talk about the politics. And that's fine.
And I have to believe, here's the thing. If you've been following us all along and you don't care for our politics, you're not here. You haven't stayed around for this one.
Yeah.
You know, or if you have, you're like, I like the show, except for they occasionally get into a political rant that I don't like. But it's good. The moment you saw we were covering a Bioshock franchise book, you were like, I'm out. Yeah. I'll see you guys in a month.
See us in a month when we're back on some other bullshit.
Right, exactly. If you're just now joining us and you don't like our politics, bye. It's really as simple as that. I was thinking about it the other day when I was reading this book.
Yeah.
And I wrote and made a YouTube video that was a mini documentary about Dungeons and Dragons and the Satanic Panic in the 1980s. It's a
great video.
It's my most popular video. Thank you very much. Check it out on YouTube at El Conquistador. It's my most popular video. And I thought I was being clear when I made this years and years ago. I still get comments from people on there who believe, on one hand, stupid and or despicable things, and think that I'm on their side. Yeah. And I've always regretted that I wasn't even more bare bones clear.
Yeah. With some of the people that have that thought pattern, you really got to hammer it home. You got to be super clear.
So let this be my manifesto.
Let us be clear.
Let us be very clear. We're not
the Randians you're looking for.
We are not yet. Thank you. That's it. That's the one. That is like our 19th t-shirt.
That's 19th t-shirt idea.
We're not the Randians.
We're not the Randians you are looking for.
Fucking Christ.
So,
but the book's, I mean, but it is a good book.
It's good so far. I'm digging it. I think I'm already read to just about the end of part 2. So
I'm a few chapters away from the end of part 2.
So I know where it's going.
I gotta tell you, people, if you got an Audible account or anything like that, get the audiobook version of this. If you're looking for an excuse to replay Bioshock,
sure.
There is nothing quite so satisfying as replaying Bioshock while listening to the prequel, because you're listening to where this world started out while playing through its future and the cataclysm that came from it all.
The decay of a true Randian society. You get to just bask in it.
It does one a body good. It really
does one a body good.
So it's a great book so far. I'm really enjoying it. He would have to really, really goddamn drop the ball.
And who knows? I mean, he might.
And I've seen it happen before.
We have covered books and that have done that before. So
yes,
we're always ready for it to happen.
Exactly the halfway point.
Exactly the half. Okay. Oh no. What is this? What's happening here? What do I have on my? Oh,
that's weird.
That's weird. Oh no.
It's almost. It was funny when the screen blanked it out at a time to suggest that it was
unseeable,
untoward material.
Yeah.
So far, basically exactly halfway through the book right now,
Yep.
and but so far so good. So
Yeah, I'm
enjoying
digging it.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, that'll do it for today's episode. If you want, actually, I'm not going to say if you want. Please just go and follow us on Twitter at PixelLit Pod. It is probably the fastest way to get updates on whatever the hell we're doing.
Absolutely.
Also, go to pixellitpod.com. That's our website. All of the episodes get posted there with the added bonus of having a automated transcript, so you can see what a computer thinks we're saying, at the very least.
The future is a wide and wondrous thing.
It is.
Is it not?
It is a wide and wacky Mr. Toad's wild ride of technology.
Good Lord.
So pixelitpod.com, at pixelitpod on Twitter. Please go check us out there. If you're listening on Apple or iTunes, go down to the bottom, give us 5 stars, or write us up a nice little review. It really helps the analytics. Until next time, thanks for listening and have a good night.
Bye.